Art Deco, or Deco, is an influential visual arts design style that first appeared in France just before World War I and began flourishing internationally in the 1920s, 1930s and 1940s before its popularity waned after World War II. It took its name, short for Arts Décoratifs, for the Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes held in Paris in 1925. It is an eclectic style that combines traditional craft motifs with machine-age imagery and materials. The style is often characterized by rich colors, bold geometric shapes and lavish ornamentation. Deco emerged from the interwar period when rapid industrialization was transforming culture. One of its major attributes is an embrace of technology. This distinguishes Deco from the organic motifs favored by its predecessor Art Nouveau. Historian Bevis Hillier defined Art Deco as an assertively modern style ran to symmetry rather than asymmetry, and to the rectilinear rather than the curvilinear. It responded to the demands of the machine and of new material, the requirements of mass production. During its heyday, Art Deco represented luxury, glamour, exuberance and faith in social and technological progress. Etymology. The first use of the term Art Deco is sometimes attributed to architect Le Corbusier, who penned a series of articles in his journal L'Esprit Nouveau under the headline 1925 Expo Arts Décoratifs. He was referring to the 1925 Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes. The term came into more general use in 1966, when a French exhibition celebrating the 1925 event was held under the title Les Années 25 Art Décoratifs Bauhaus Stigel Esprit Nouveau. Here the term was used to distinguish the new styles of French decorative crafts that had emerged since the Belle Époque. The term Art Deco has since been applied to a wide variety of works produced during the interwar period, and even to those of the Bauhaus in Germany. However, Art Deco originated in France. It has been argued that the term should be applied to French works and those produced in countries directly influenced by France. Art Deco gained currency as a broadly applied stylistic label in 1968 when historian Bevis Hillier published the first book on the subject, Art Deco of the 20s and 30s. Hillier noted that the term was already being used by art dealers and cites The Times and an essay named Les Arts Décoratifs in Elle magazine as examples of prior usage. In 1971, Hillier organized an exhibition at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts which he details in his book about it, The World of Art Deco. Origins. Some historians trace Deco's roots to the Universal Exposition of 1900. After this show, a group of artists established an informal collective known as La Société des Artistes Décorateurs to promote French crafts. Among them were Hector Guimard, Eugène Grasset, Raoul Lacanal, Paul Bellot, Maurice Dufresne and Émile Deco. These artists are said to have influenced the principles of Art Deco. The Art Deco era is often anecdotally dated from 1925 when the Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes was organized to showcase new ideas in applied arts. Although the style had been in full force in France for several years before the date, Deco was heavily influenced by pre-modern art from around the world and observable at the Musée du Louvre, Musée de l'Homme and the Musée National des Arts d'Afrique et d'Océanie. During the 1920s, cities, affordable travel permitted in situ exposure to other cultures. There was also popular interest in archaeology due to excavations at Pompeii, Troy, the tomb of Tutankhamun, etc. Artists and designers integrated motifs from ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, Asia, Mesoamerica and Oceania with machine age elements. Deco was also influenced by Cubism, Constructivism, Functionalism, Modernism, and Futurism. In 1905, before the onset of Cubism, Eugene Grasset wrote and published Méthode composition ornamental elements rectilineaires, within which he systematically explored the decorative aspects of geometric elements, forms, motifs and their variations. In contrast with the undulating Art Nouveau style of Hector Guimard, so popular in Paris a few years earlier, Grasset stresses the principle that various simple geometric shapes like triangles and squares are the basis of all compositional arrangements. At the 1907 Salon de l'Automne in Paris, Georges Braque exhibited Viaduct l'Aristarque, now at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. Simultaneously, there was a retrospective exhibition of 56 works by Paul Cézanne, as a tribute to the artist who died in 1906. Cézanne was interested in the simplification of forms to the geometric essentials: the cylinder, the sphere, the cone. Paul Irib created for the couturier Paul Poit aesthetic designs that shocked the Parisian milieu with its novelty. These illustrations were compiled into an album, Les Robes de Paul Poit, raconté par Paul Irib, published in 1908. At the 1910 Salon des Indépendants, Jean Metzinger, Henry Lefauconnier and Robert Delaunay, shown together in room 18, elaborated upon Cézannean syntax, revealing to the general public for the first time a mobile perspective in their art, soon to become known as Cubism. Several months later, the Salon de l'Automne saw the invitation of Munich artists who for several years had been working with simple geometric shapes, leading up to 1910 and culminating in 1912. The French designers André Maire and Louis Sue turned towards the quasi-mystical golden ratio, in accord with Pythagorean and Platonic traditions, giving the works a cubist sensibility. The artists of the section d'or exhibited works considerably more accessible to the general public than the analytical cubism of Picasso and Braque. The Cubist vocabulary was poised to attract fashion, furniture and interior designers. These revolutionary changes occurring at the outset of the 20th century are summarized in the 1912 writings of André Vira. Le Nouveau style, published in the journal Les Arts Décoratifs, expressed the rejection of Art Nouveau forms and called for simplicité volontaire, symmetry manifeste, l'ordre et harmonie, themes that would eventually become ubiquitous within the context of Art Deco architecture. Between 1910 and 1913, Paris saw the construction of the Tête des Champs-Élysées, 15 Avenue Montaigne, another sign of the radical aesthetic change experienced by the Parisian milieu of the time. The rigorous composition of its facade, designed by Auguste Perret, is a major example of early Art Deco. The building includes exterior bas-reliefs by Antoine Bourdelle, a dome by Maurice Denis, paintings by Edouard Vuillard and Jacqueline Marvel, and a stage curtain design by Xavier Roussel. It took its inspiration from classical architecture and featured straight lines, geometric forms, and decoration in the form of sculptured plaques attached to the exterior. Another important figure of early French Art Deco architecture was Henri Sauvage, who switched from Art Nouveau to Art Deco in designing the Majorelle building in Paris for furniture designer Louis Majorelle, the Studio building. In 1926–28, the Gambetta Palace movie theatre in 1920, and a new facade for the Les Samaritan department store. By the 1930s the style had become much more flamboyant, and added much more decoration on the facade. It was particularly popular for movie theaters, such as the Grand Rex in Paris, and Radio City Music Hall in New York City, and in the decoration of skyscrapers. The Art Deco style was not limited to buildings on land. The ocean liner SS Normandy, whose first voyage was in 1935, featured Art Deco design, including a dining room whose ceiling and decoration was made of glass by La Maison Cubista. In the Art Décoratif section of the 1912 Salon d'Automne, an architectural installation was exhibited that quickly became known as La Maison Cubista. The facade was designed by Raymond Duchamp Villon and the interior by André Maire along with a group of collaborators. Maire's ensembles were accepted as frames for Cubist works because they allowed paintings and sculptures their independence. Writes Christopher Green, creating a play of contrasts, hence the involvement not only of Glizes and Metzinger themselves, but of Marie Laurencin, the Duchamp brothers and Maire's old friends Leger and Roger de la Fresnaye. La Maison Cubista was a fully furnished house, with a facade, a staircase, wrought iron banisters, a living room, the Salon Bourgeois, where paintings by Marcel Duchamp, Jean Metzinger, Albert Glizes, Marie Laurencin and Fernand Leger were hung, and a bedroom. It was an early example of l'art décoratif, a home within which Cubist art could be displayed in the comfort and style of modern, bourgeois life. Spectators at the Salon d'Automne passed through the full-scale 10 by 3 meter plaster model of the ground floor of the facade. This architectural installation was subsequently exhibited at the 1913 Armory Show, New York, Chicago and Boston. Listed in the catalogue of the New York exhibit as Raymond Duchamp Villon, number 609, and entitled Facade Architectural Plaster. Interior design. Several years after World War I, in 1927, Cubists Joseph Csaky, Jacques Lipchitz, Louis Marcoussis, Henry Lawrence, the sculptor Gustave Miklos, and others collaborated in the decoration of a studio house, Rue Saint-James, Neuilly-sur-Seine, designed by the architect Paul Rode and owned by the French fashion designer Jacques Doucet, also a collector of post-impressionist and cubist paintings. Lawrence designed the fountain, Csaky designed Doucet's staircase, Lipchitz made the fireplace mantel, and Marcoussis made a cubist rug. Attributes. Deco emphasizes geometric forms, spheres, polygons, rectangles, trapezoids, zigzags, chevrons, and sunburst motifs. Elements are often arranged in symmetrical patterns. Modern materials, such as aluminum, stainless steel, bakelite, chrome, and plastics, are frequently used. Stained glass, inlays, and lacquer are also common. Colors tend to be vivid and high contrast. Influence. Art Deco was a globally popular style and affected many areas of design. It was used widely in consumer products such as automobiles, furniture, cookware, china, textiles, jewelry, clocks, and electronic items such as radios, telephones, and jukeboxes. It also influenced architecture, interior design, industrial design, fashion, graphic arts, and cinema. During the 1930s, Art Deco was used extensively for public works projects, railway stations, ocean liners, movie palaces, and amusement parks. The austerities imposed by World War II caused Art Deco to decline in popularity. It was perceived by some as gaudy and inappropriately luxurious. A resurgence of interest began during the 1960s. Deco continues to inspire designers and is often used in contemporary fashion, jewelry, and toiletries. Streamline modern, a style related to Art Deco. Streamline modern, which emerged during the mid-1930s. Streamline was influenced by modern aerodynamic principles developed for aviation and ballistics to reduce air friction at high velocities. Designers applied these principles to cars, trains, ships, and even objects not intended to move, such as refrigerators, gas pumps, and buildings. One of the first production vehicles in this style was the Chrysler Airflow of 1933. It was unsuccessful commercially, but the beauty and functionality of its design set a precedent. Streamlining quickly influenced automotive design and evolved the rectangular, horseless carriage into sleek vehicles with aerodynamic lines, symmetry, and V-shapes. These designs continued to be popular after World War II.